Now, it is a very important argument, Yogendra ji, that you're making. Thank you for joining us, because of course people would assume that Yogendra Yadav is against the Modi government. He's a critic of the Modi government. So by definition, he would be against the Uniform Civil Code. In fact, there are other people I know who are critics of the Modi government. T.M. Krishna, the Carnatic musician, Nilanjana Roy, the author, who in the past have drafted what they have called a progressive Uniform Civil Code. They have put forth in the public domain a Uniform Civil Code as they imagine it. I want to understand from you first why you think it's poor politics for the opposition to oppose the UCC per se.
Thanks, Barkha, for this conversation, which I really wanted to have, because I think the trouble is, as you rightly say, if Mr. Modi says something, some people are expected to oppose it, no matter what he says, which indeed is very poor politics. I think when we think of the UCC, let's think of three things: principles, policy, and politics. And to my mind, opposing UCC per se is bad on principles, it's misreading of the policy, and it's very poor politics. What is the principle? The principle is equality before law. That is to say, no one can say, well, we happen to treat women like this, that's how we will do it. No, there are some laws. So equality before law must translate into laws that are religion neutral and gender just. This is the principle. And this is indeed the principle that's incorporated in our constitution. Directive principle of state policy, Article 44, clearly says that. And to my mind, those of us who keep demanding all the time, implement this directive principle, implement that one, we cannot suddenly say, no, but don't implement this one. I think it's a very fair principle laid down. So on principle, there is a perfect case for the UCC. On policy, have we implemented this constitutional directive of Article 44? The simple fact is that it has been in some ways substantially achieved, but the journey is incomplete. It has been achieved by the changes in the Hindu personal law in the early 50s. But after that, again, you've had a number of other laws. There's a Prevention of Dowry Act. There's a Prevention of Child Marriage Act. There is a Domestic Abuse Act. All these acts, mind you, are implemented across religions. You cannot say, we'll do child marriage because it's according to my religion. It says, no, this is so. So we have made advances on this constitutional promise. Is the thing complete? No, the journey is not complete. In all religions, there still are residue of laws that go against women, that go against transgender, of course. All these need to be amended. So there is still a case for UCC to be fully implemented. And third is the question of politics. And in politics, the simple thing is that the BJP is doing this in bad faith. Everyone knows it. BJP has no intrinsic interest in the UCC. They've never had it. They use it only as a stick to beat the Muslims or minorities in general. Now, in order to oppose that, in order to expose BJP's bad faith, you do not need to go against the principles. And sadly, some part of secular politics feels so beleaguered that whenever the BJP takes stand for something, we tend to oppose it. BJP says we are for nationalism. And then from next day, we start feeling apologetic about our nationalism. BJP says we stand for Indian tradition. I mean, they know nothing about Indian tradition. But suddenly we start feeling very uneasy and guilty about Indian traditions, and we start criticizing that. BJP says triple talaq is bad. Triple talaq had already been annulled by the Supreme Court. Why do we need to take positions on these things? So similarly on the UCC, if Mr. Modi happens to say, all right, let's hold him on to his own promise. So in a nutshell, I would say the opposition should say, and I think there's been some nuancing of the position by the opposition in the last 2 weeks since I wrote this article. The opposition should say, all right, Mr. Modi, thank you very much. We want UCC. Let's see how you implement it. Please bring a draft. Let us see how you implement it in the Northeast. Let us see what provisions you have for the Adivasis. Let us see what you have provisions you have for the matrilineal societies in Meghalaya and in Kerala. Let's see what you do with the Hindu undivided family provision. Let's see all that, and then if it is truly uniform, progressive, and gender just, we shall accept it.
Yeah. In fact, you're right that the opposition, I mean, I don't think there's an opposition response, but the opposition appears to have gone from blanket opposition to saying we'll comment after the draft is put in the public domain. But mostly you have the major opposition party, the Congress, still saying this is not the right time. Now, I want you to talk a little bit about this because your column in the print argues that actually it's poor politics for several reasons, and one of the reasons you cite is that it clubs the opposition, or it attempts to club the opposition, such a resistance, with the conservative religious clergy, as it were, the orthodoxy, and that can only be counterproductive. So talk a little bit about that.
This is a clear political ploy by the BJP. And why do I say it's a ploy, not a principled position? For the simple reasons: number one, that BJP had that BJP's previous avatar, Jansangh and so on, they had opposed the reforms of Hindu laws. So they were clearly not for the UCC at that point. Golwalkar, RSS's ideological chief, the RSS chief, had actually explicitly opposed the UCC in an interview in 1972 given to Mr. Malkani, no less. If you look at the present of the BJP, a party that talks about that creates religious differentiation in the CAA on the very citizenship, for that party to speak about uniform law is rather rich, isn't it? For BJP, which has they appointed a law commission in 2016. The law commission started a debate. In 2018, the law commission reached a conclusion after a very good report that it's not needed. So the BJP to come up is again rather strange. And if
But
you look at
can I interrupt you? The law commission says it's not needed at this time. I just want to clarify that there was a timing reference in the last law commission report.
That's right. So that's actually very good report in 2018. We should all read that report because the report, which is called a discussion paper, goes into depth of the issues about all the laws that need to be reformed and comes up with a 2 or 3-fold strategy, which is very sensible. So for BJP, for the same government now to have another law commission to go into exactly the same question and then ask public for responses to it, while in the past they've already had some 75,000 responses. So I mean, this whole thing is in bad faith. There is absolutely no doubt about it. And also, as you pointed out, now Mr. Sushil Modi is saying maybe not the Northeast. We are getting signals from Mr. Amit Shah's office that the whole of Northeast may be exempted. Then someone will say, well, the Adivasis must be exempted. So who should not be exempted? I mean, SGPC has already protested. So at some stage, 6 will also be exempted. So what is it? This is simply a stick to beat the Muslims. That is what the BJP is all about. However, what should the opposition do? The opposition must stand its ground, its principled ground. And the principled ground can only be that, yes, we support UCC. Please remember, the Uniform Civil Code is not a product of BJP's imagination. It is a constitutional principle, a principle that was vigorously advocated by Jawaharlal Nehru, by Dr. Ambedkar, by Congress critics like Ram Manohar Lohia. I mean, all these had advocated. Now, if the BJP says we stand for it, suddenly we should not turn around and say, therefore, we oppose it. And please remember, to my mind, the most significant interlocutor in this debate has been India's feminist movement. Feminist movement has consistently taken a position against religious orthodoxy on the one hand, whether it's a Hindu orthodoxy or a Muslim orthodoxy, and against BJP's attempts to appropriate it. That, to my mind, should become the national stand. And I'm sure parties like Congress and other parties will veer towards that. And incidentally, asking for a concrete draft is a very good idea. I think that's what everyone should do.